if you're able to turn that into a piece of content that's consumable, that passion grows. It becomes scalable. It's like scaling the unscalable. And they would almost wear the scars, the bleeding wounds on their faces as kind of like a badge of honor. It's a game of sort of hunter versus hunter, and it very much does feel like enemy at the gates when you play that game. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life have gone through real shit. Like whether it's my grandfather, who was a prisoner with the Japanese, he was the most amazing human being. But he was only the most amazing human being because he was a prisoner with the Japanese, and he'd been. But I do know that when I'm gone, there'll be a legacy that's left there on YouTube, and I hope YouTube will be there long after I'm gone.
YouTube's algorithm is a strange thing. Sometimes it recommends videos that you never thought you'd be interested in. That happened to me a couple of months ago. When a video about Airsoft popped up, I clicked and got hooked. It's a quite fascinating game that apparently has been around for some time and continues to gain a lot of traction. The video was shot from a perspective of Airsoft Sniper under the name Kicking Mustang. I've never seen anything like that. So after a couple of weeks of watching his content, I reached out to learn more. And boy, this conversation took us to some unexpected places. Anyway, enjoy. Actually, subscribe first. And now enjoy. Kicking Mustang, is it what you go by?
Yes, mate. Yeah, online I go by Kicking Mustang, or you can call me James.
Okay, James. What's the name? Like, why did you decide to take that name?
Kicking Mustang. Back in 2008, I think it was, I started my YouTube channel, but I did it for music-related things. So I was promoting clubs, and I just wanted a name for my YouTube channel back then, and Kicking Mustang was one of the names of a record I used to play. And so I just put it on there. And then when I started doing my Airsoft YouTube, 2016, 2017-ish, I was thinking, God, I need a name for myself for the YouTube channel. And I couldn't be bothered to make a new channel. So I just kept the original Kicking Mustang. And what's in a name? Doesn't matter, does it? Like, what's Google? What's Apple? What's Virgin Atlantic? All of these names, they don't mean anything. It's just what you make it. So I kept it, and that was it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool name, actually. I don't follow Airsoft a lot, so Google algorithm picked up your video, showed it to me, and I'm like, holy shit, what is it? And I kind of went this rabbit hole with you, like walking around, shooting stuff, and you have this sniper gear, and I'm like, this is fascinating. I have to talk to these guys, and this is fascinating thing. Like I didn't even know this thing exists. Well, tell me a little bit about the Airsoft.
It started in Japan in the 1990s. The name Airsoft comes from, I think it was in Japan called soft air or airsoft, because it was relatively low power. It was about 1 joule of energy. So it doesn't, at that kind of power, it doesn't really hurt. You get a little sting or a little flick, so it's quite safe. And then it sort of spread across the world since then, and different countries have different power limits depending where you are. So probably the place where I've played with the biggest power limits is probably Turkey, I think, which is probably about 3.5 joules of energy, which is certainly enough to give you a welt or a little bleed if it hits you. And the lowest power levels are Japan, or maybe Ireland has quite low power, and places like Italy, they've got 1 joule of energy power limits. And it essentially involves playing capture the flag type games or Call of Duty type games where people dress up in military gear. The guns kind of look realistic, or some of them look very realistic.
It's like teams, right? 2 teams or 3 teams. How does it work?
Yeah, it can be played in 2, 3 teams, 4 teams sometimes. It can be played anywhere from, I've run games that could run up to 24 or even 48 hours constantly, and they can be played with small numbers. So I've played, say, dedicated sniper games, and there's only been, say, 7 players playing against each other for 24 hours. Or it could go as big as, like this weekend just gone, I just got back from a mil sim in America, and there was 1,100 players at an event over there, 2 teams. And there was a bunch of different objectives you had to achieve over the day, over the 24 hours. And yeah, just a bunch of guys just running around having fun, doing guy things with toy guns.
That's funny. There are a few things to dissect. So joules, how powerful the guns are. Is it important? Like, why is it important? Is it is it based on like how much pain you want to inflict, or how much pain you're willing to take?
It's based on the country's legal limits. Some countries have legal limits because the guns look real.
Yeah,
there has to be. Most countries have to have some kind of law in place that says, well, they look like guns, but they're not really guns. They're airsoft. And then
Hmm.
you have to define what airsoft is. And so airsoft is a 6 mm BB that fires up to a certain amount of energy. You couldn't have a 6 mm BB that fires at this like 1,000 miles an hour and will be deadly, because then
Yeah.
yeah, it's dangerous. So there has to be a legal limit, and different countries have different legal limits on how
And like,
powerful it can be.
what's your preference? Like when you have to choose between two countries to go and play, do you look at joules at all, or you don't care? It's more about the.
I don't care.
Got it.
I
Yeah.
don't care. But to be fair, the the countries I find that have the best airsoft tend to have the higher power limits that hurt more. It feels a bit more. There's more of an element of, oh, if I get hit, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's a bit of more of a adrenaline rush, and there's a bit more of an edge to the game. So for me personally, I prefer higher power limits, but not everyone prefers that.
But it's also for you because you're a sniper, right? So it's
Correct.
easier to kind of hit the target if there is more power, right? Is it fair to say?
Yeah, that is right. The higher the power limits, the generally speaking, the further the shots will go.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted equation. Like the weight of the BB matters, how
Hmm.
good, how accurate the hop rubber is on it. And there's a few different things, but essentially, the more powerful it is, the more potential you have for getting longer range. But having said that, the problem is when you get to really high power limits is once you get past two joules, the BBs have a whistle on them when they fire. Now I'm a stealth sniper, so everything
Oh,
I do
okay.
is quiet. So even if I play somewhere like Turkey, I may not want to have the full power, because when you fire at those very high limits, that BB has a whoosh as it goes through the air. So if I take a shot and miss somebody, they might go, "Oh, I'm being shot at," and move. So sometimes it's better to have a lower power limit depending on your style of play.
And it's funny, you guys rely on the honesty of people. I saw that when they got hit, they raise hand, right? And
Yeah,
a lot of content on YouTube about airsoft is people cheating. Like literally, in one of your videos, I saw that you shoot the guy like 50 times and
yeah,
he pretends not to be
yeah.
hit. I'm like, is there like, isn't there like a better way? You know how paintball is kind of too clumsy. I think it's just too big. You can't do it. But like, I don't know, maybe there's a
Like,
glitch or
yeah, I mean,
something.
it's essentially it's a game of honor. So if you're hit, you say you put your hand up, so you hit
Hmm.
and you're out. Cheating does happen, in any sport. No matter where you play, people will always think, "Oh, I don't know, was I hit there? I can't see who shot me. Oh, I'm going to pretend I'm not hit." But yeah, it happens. There's no way around in any sport. Now, the problem with paintball is it's not as accurate as
Yeah.
airsoft. Our little BBs are perfectly formed, and even though they're not even barrels, they're cannons, because they're smoothbore. Whereas a
Hmm.
rifle with a real gun, the bullet will spin, making it very accurate. Our airsoft guns are like cannons, so they're smoothbore, and the BB, when it flies through it, it gets backspin on it from a rubber. Now there's you even though it's a cannon, it's still pretty accurate out to about 80, 90, maybe even 100 meters. Paintball can't do that, because
Hmm.
because they've got the rubber, the liquid inside, they're not perfectly formed, and they don't spin like our BBs. They just shoot out without the backspin, so they don't float. Whereas our BBs, they float
Yeah.
with backspin, and they're pretty accurate. So there's advantages to airsoft in that longer ranges, more accurate. The disadvantages, you are relying on people's honesty, but generally speaking, 99% of people are honest, and the videos you've seen just happen to be the viral videos.
Yes, I
Um,
guess maybe.
yeah.
Mm. And when there are like you said 1,000 people
Mm-hmm.
participating, is there like division? Okay, there is a commander who basically puts people in different places, or okay,
Yeah.
where the 500 people who were in red, these are guys who were in etc. Just go and kill as many as you can.
It depends on the organization or the event. The
Mm-hmm.
event I was at last weekend in America was kind of a mil sim, or a military simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a commander, and then there was platoon leaders who would then control the different platoons and give out orders. And the technology that's involved at this event was quite good. So a lot of players had what they called ATAC, or an advanced tactical something. I can't remember the exact readout. And essentially, we all had this kind of like a phone, and
Mm-hmm.
had a GPS on it, and we could see where all of the other players were on our team, and the
Huh.
team leaders could send out commands to the platoon leaders, and there would be drones that were used, and you could see the drone. You could press buttons on the drone on your readout, and you could see the video view of the drone and receive orders, see objectives. So technology is pretty high, and there are
Wow.
guys. It goes into the nighttime as well. So there's guys there with like night vision goggles that might cost $10,000-$20,000. People invest a lot of money into the technology that's used to
Wow.
play what appears to be just a game of cowboys and Indians, and people take it pretty seriously.
Yeah, when I was growing up, it like we just pretended we just said bomb bomb.
Yeah,
And it's just taken a whole new level. It's fascinating.
yeah. Night vision. People have thermal scopes on their guns. On Tuesday, just coming this Tuesday, I've got a company coming to show me a new thermal scope they've got to go on top of my airsoft guns. So I'll be able to see people like the Predator in the Arnold
Wow.
Schwarzenegger film Predator, and it'll be yeah. So technology is it's like boys and their toys, isn't it? It's such an amazing hobby. We don't just go out on a Sunday, run around, shoot each other. During the week, there's the kit, the preparing your loadout, the technology, building your guns. It's a great hobby.
That thing with you said there were like 7 snipers playing the game. It's almost like enemy at the gate. You guys have to. How does that
Yeah.
work?
So if it was a sniper specific game, there would perhaps be seven players, and it would play in 3 pairs of 2, and there'd be one counter sniper. So it might be played over a very large area. The 3 pairs of snipers would work together into 3 teams.
Mhm.
They would have the objective to locate navigation points. So they'd have on a map, there might be 5 navigation points on a map. 3 of them are in play. They don't know which 3 there are. And there'll be a target that's hanging. And the target would have something written on it, like a letter or a number. And they have to get within range to find the target, view it, the binoculars or their scope, write down what is on the target. Then they would also get points if they shoot other snipers who are doing the same objective. Then there'll be a counter sniper who works alone. And if the counter sniper shoots any of those players, they will get 2 points. There's normal snipers would only get 1 point. So the counter sniper would be very aggressively looking for the players to shoot out to get more points. And that could be played over 24 hours. Yeah, it's pretty intense. And sometimes you might only shoot once or twice over the 24 hours.
Wow.
But the game could ride on that. So it's a game of sort of hunter versus hunter, and it very much does feel like enemy at the gates when you play that game.
And how big is the territory you guys typically play it?
It can be pretty large. So during my regular airsoft field, which has a Saturday and Sunday game, that's only about 200 acres. It's still pretty big, and that's just an open game. But sometimes, like the weekend just gone, in America, it was about a 1 mile square.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's anywhere that size or thereabouts. It could be any size really.
Who are the people who play airsoft? Is it like a specific? Do you see some trend like, oh, this is a former military, or do you see some like gamers? Like what's average profile?
This is the great thing about airsoft. It attracts all sorts. So I would say it's probably predominantly 95% males because it's a shooting kind of contact sport. So you're not going to get that many girls, but the girls who do come and play, the females do come and play. There's no barrier to entry for that. There's no feeling that they're in any way different to the men when they play. And some of the best players at my local field happen to be girls as well. So there's a male, female. You've got anything from young kids from 12 up to guys in their 70s. So age limit is not an issue either. And then you get people who are just trying it for the first time. And then you get people like myself who's been playing it for over a decade. And then you might get people who have no interest in killing or hunting or the military. They just enjoy gaming. But at the same time, you might get ex-military guys or even serving military guys.
Mm-hmm.
So the weekend just gone in America, a very recent example. 3 of the guys in my team, including my team leader, were US special operatives. And they've had multiple tours of Afghanistan and Iraq and have got medals. I think one of them's got a Silver Star. They've been injured in combat and they just enjoy playing the game. So it could be a mix of all sorts of people, from experienced military to kids to grandparents to parents. It's a fun game.
It looks like, and I saw that people don't use any gear. I think you recently published a video from Rio de Janeiro.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys
that place is crazy.
It looked like. And how painful it is not to wear things. Is it like
Yeah, it bleeds. Yeah, you get bleed. You'll get if you're not wearing any clothes. So in Rio, they're quite high power limits in Rio de Janeiro as well. Some of the
mm,
higher power limits in the world. But the guys there, I don't know. There's something about the players in Brazil that was very. There's such a real genuine, like competitive nature from those players, and I don't know whether it comes from the background because some of those guys come from the favelas or the ghettos there, and I don't know whether there's just something about them that living in Rio, there's like the element of danger about their everyday life. When you go around Rio de Janeiro in the perhaps poor areas of the city, there is an element of danger there, and the same perhaps in South Africa as well. When I played in Johannesburg, some of the guys there, when you go around South Africa and Johannesburg, there's this maybe feeling of it's not a completely safe society,
mm.
and maybe that breeds a certain kind of person. But as you have you noticed in the video in Rio de Janeiro, those guys, some of them were just playing in a kilt or shorts,
Yes.
and they had eye protection on, but yeah, there was just a certain aggressiveness or a genuine like just feeling of wanting to compete in the game, and they didn't care about getting hit or hitting each other. And there was a real celebration as well when people would land headshots at each other, and they would be like they would almost wear the scars, the bleeding wounds on their faces as kind of like a badge of honor. And it was a
Wow.
real, it felt a real genuine kind of pleasure they got out of this game. And yeah, it was a very cool time in Rio. I really enjoyed hanging out, not just the field I played at, but the people I was with.
What's your favorite country to play airsoft at?
It doesn't matter how good an organizer is, and it doesn't matter how good the field is, the actual geographical location is that you play at. The player base is the most important thing. Like if you're playing at an amazing field, really well organized, but the players are not good players or they're not good sportsmen, it doesn't matter. You're not going to have a fun time. But you could play at a very average field or a poor field, but if the community's amazing and there's a real buzz about the game and excitement, you get a real satisfaction at playing the game with those kind of people. For me, I got that. I actually ticked all the boxes in Rio de Janeiro. The genuine nature of the people, the sportsmanship, the camaraderie in the community, as well as the great field and the good organisation. But the people of Rio de Janeiro, for me, made it a really special time when I was there. Have you ever played airsoft?
I haven't. No, I just discovered. I tell you, like it was recently. I played softball, not softball. Softball's a different thing.
Paintball.
Paintball a couple of times, and it was fun. But it's like, yeah, you just running around, and this looks fascinating. It looks like as close to the real life. I mean, not real life, but at least strategically. You know what I mean?
As
It's
close
just
as you can get. I think
yeah,
there are
without being
there's a
killed.
lot of guys. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people I know in America, friends of mine in America, who use it as a force on force training tool. They call it. So it's pretty much as close as you can get to the real thing without physically hurting each other.
And is it popular in America? Because I'm not sure why I didn't hear it yet.
Yeah, no, it's very popular in America. Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to money, like who pays for what? Like, do you have to pay to participate in these games, or how does it work?
Generally, if you just want to get started in airsoft, you could
Yeah.
pay to rent a package. So you go to your local airsoft field and just look up on Google airsoft near where I live. Something will pop up. You can generally go along, rent a package, and just get involved. But if you want to go deeper, then you can, as we touched on earlier, you could spend tens of thousands of pounds on equipment. The sky is literally the limit. There's guys there using real military equipment to play the game, and some of the guns are incredibly expensive. Some airsoft guns cost more than the real steel counterparts. For example, an AK-47 you could pick up for a few $100s in America. They're not
Yep.
that expensive, but the top-notch airsoft version, I've including a scope and an upgrade. You could be spending maybe $1,200-$1,300
Wow,
on an airsoft AK-47, which is going to be more than a real one.
that's interesting. Are they like particular companies, like gear producers that focus on airsoft primarily?
Yeah. But in terms of the guns, yeah, for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
just
Yeah,
curious. Like, how
there are.
is the industry? How is it? Who's catered to that? Like, I know that's if you look at the boxing, right? There are certain a sports company that focus on boxing gloves, etc. Is it similar for airsoft?
But perhaps I'm not really sure. There are dedicated airsoft companies. They tend to focus on the guns. The rest of the equipment, there tends to be a crossover with real world stuff. So if you're buying trousers or tops, plate carriers, rigs, belts, there tend to be companies that produce equipment for real steel. We call it real steel application. And airsofters tend to pick up on that stuff because it's pretty well made. And yeah.
How many of your friends play airsoft?
I have a lot of friends in the airsoft community for sure.
Outside of that
People
community,
out,
like people who saw you start doing it and just joined you.
not many, maybe two people who I knew before I played airsoft. There's probably two of them who play airsoft.
And it looks like you're pretty well known in the community. Like you have 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and you're also a little bit of polarizing figure. Seems like. Do you think is the reason?
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, I always believe that you should speak your truth and see what happens. Like if you don't speak your truth and you keep quiet all the time, nothing's going to come of it. Maybe you speak your truth, some good might come of it. Now, I've always been of the opinion that I express my opinion. I think it's very important to be able to express your opinion in anything you do in your life. And if I record something on the airsoft field, I will put it, and I think it's entertaining, or I think it's important because it expresses an important point about maybe a rule that I agree or don't agree with, but something happens, I will then say, well, I'll present something, let's have a discussion about this. Or if somebody does something that breaks the game, whether they're cheating or they're doing something that ruins the game for other people and it's caught on camera and I think it's amusing, I'll put it out in a video. Sometimes members of the community might say, well, presents a bad impression of the community because you put a cheater on camera and maybe we shouldn't be showing cheaters because this gives a bad impression of the community. I have never seen any evidence that is the case. I think it's like football or in any sport where a bad foul is committed. And a TV show might show the highlights, and without fail, the bad foul, or if the manager is arguing on the touchline with the referee, it's always featured in the highlights of a sports show. Now, does that give a bad impression of sport? Well, someone could argue it, but still people are engaged. It provides points of discussion, and I don't see any reason not to include it. And I stand by that, and I am unapologetic. And like anything in life, if someone has an opinion against somebody and that person's unapologetic, perhaps that creates polarization in the community. I guess that's why it happens.
And I'm guessing the fact that you have so many subscribers, if you have 2.5 million people watching you regularly, there can be at least a few people who wouldn't like you. And outside of you, like, are there any other like well-known airsofters, airsoft players? I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a few. I think I was the most viewed last year by quite some way. And I've just had a billion views on YouTube, which is quite a lot of people. It's quite mind-boggling to think that that's like an eighth of the world's population has seen my videos, which is quite mind-boggling. But there are other big content creators. There's a guy in Holland called Silo Entertainment. There's American guys. There's a guy called Alphonse, Airsoft Alphonse in America, who's very popular at the moment. There's guys in Japan. In terms of millions of subscribers, there's probably a handful of airsofters with a million or more subscribers, maybe 10 or 12 with a million or more subscribers, something like that.
This sniper gig, was it your idea? Were you one of the first ones who came up with it, or it was already wildly used, but you just perfected it to the point where it was impossible to spot you? People were like in front of you, don't keep missing you.
The ghillie suit stuff. When I started playing airsoft, I always used ghillie suits from the start of it. I've always had a passion for playing hide and seek from being a little kid. I just loved playing hide and seek. It felt like a superpower. And I was just always addicted to making ghillie suits. Other people had made ghillie suits, but I think what I did with my ghillie suit design, I took it to another level. There's the military ghillie suits that everyone thinks of, like the cloaks with a hood. They're sort of fluffy, made of hessian. You stuff natural veg into them. They're effective if you're lying down in one position. But for airsoft, we're moving around a lot more. and we need 360-degree concealment. Sometimes I'll be lying back against something, or I might be stalking, people are looking at me from the front or the side, and your face is very important. So I started wearing a mask and I started concealing my goggles. At one point, I was even putting feathers in the side of my head to create fake eyes. So people were looking at me, enemy snipers, they wouldn't know which direction I was looking in, taking it to another level. And now I've also developed, with my friend Ed, we've developed a kind of, we call it adaptive ghillie mesh, which I now sell as the KMCS adaptive ghillie mesh, which is taken concealment to another level that hasn't been seen in the last 10 years, not in the military, not in hunting. And what this mesh does, it reacts to the light in a very realistic way, like natural vegetation. When the bright lights shine onto vegetation, the chlorophyll in the leaves become very vivid, and it's almost like it's just like a really bright shining light when vegetation is hit by sunlight. That's very difficult to recreate, and that's what our adaptive ghillie mesh does. So it will replicate how natural veg shines in light. So
That's pretty
that's
cool.
taken, yeah. And that's all come from playing airsoft and needing to be able to be a few feet from people and be completely invisible. Whereas military snipers, they're working at usually a long distance from their target, and they're usually face down or in a position where they're not moving. Whereas in airsoft, we're moving around a lot. We have to be mobile and have to have these lightweight ghillie suits. So it's come as an evolution, really. The camouflage has evolved from the need to be invisible, and just pushed it, and that's where we are now. Yeah.
So for people like you who are very popular in the community, do these organizers reach out and invited you to participate in these games to attract other people?
Yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah, for sure. Like Brazil, I was invited there. South Africa, I get invited there. Places in Europe, I'm playing later this month in Belgium at a special event. If I go to a place and people hear that I'm there, they'll come and visit me. They come and see me there. You're kind of a personality, I guess,
Nice.
and it's very humbling. Sometimes it's quite strange, but all the time I appreciate the people who come and say hello to me.
That's really cool. And let's talk about YouTube. So you're on YouTube, and it seems like to me that you actually spend considerable amount of time doing videos. You kind of like doing it, I could tell. What's YouTube? Is it like a opportunity for you to monetize your hobby, or it's just share with people what you do?
It's a good question, because when I first started doing my YouTube content, I think I kind of saw it as that the way I played airsoft, I wanted to share how I played it, which has been a very sneaky sniper. And there were some really intense moments, and I wanted to somehow be able to put that across to people. And I guess my mindset of doing the YouTube channel was I wanted, like in the old days, when if you were in a village or a community and you did something good for your community, or you did something that was notable, your village or your local community would perhaps, if you died, your village would build a statue and put it in the middle of the village and say, put their name and then for all the good he's done for this village, or the great achievements in developing the wheel, or whatever they did in the community. Whereas I kind of think maybe I saw it as a way of building a statue to myself that's going to be my way of beating death. You know, our lives are very short. In not so many years, we're all going to be dead. But I do know that when I'm gone, there'll be a legacy that's left there on YouTube, and I hope YouTube will be there long after I'm gone. I guess that was my original motive. It's developed into something way more than that. It's developed into a structure of practicality that I can still do exactly what I love in my life and still make some money out of it, do advertisements and sell my products. But my original intention really was to build a statue that's going to be there after I've died.
That's pretty cool. And you do it everything by yourself, or somebody's helping you?
I do it all myself.
Wow.
I love making videos as much as I love playing airsoft. They're literally like 50. If you have to make me choose one or the other, I don't think I could. I love playing airsoft.
Oh,
I love making videos, and it's very difficult. I can't imagine doing one without the other now. I tell you what, I think I could imagine myself making videos without airsoft, but I couldn't play airsoft without making videos now.
really? So what would be
Yeah.
those videos going to be about? About airsoft, but not you playing, or
Just life, like just passion, isn't it? I think anybody who has a passion for something in life, I think the ability if you can learn to document your passion and create a piece of content that is consumable by that's interesting for other people to watch, then your passion goes. It doesn't matter if it's just you that has a passion for doing something with one other person, or even no, but as long as you have a passion for something, if you're able to turn that into a piece of content that's consumable, that passion grows. It becomes scalable. It's like scaling the unscalable. I love the idea that you can share your passion through content creation, and other people will be able to take an interest in it.
So tomorrow I come to you and say, like, you can no longer play airsoft, but you can create content. What is that content going to be about? About other people playing airsoft, or you find something else?
If airsoft is illegal and you can't play anywhere else in the world, what would I do?
Pretty much.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it may be something like beekeeping or building like huts in the den in the forest. I don't know, building forest dens, or who knows? Chicken keeping. I like chickens. I like bees. I like building crap in the woods. I don't know. It could be anything that I've got a passion for. Walking up in the mountains. It could be computer games. I like playing. There's a computer game I like playing, World of Warships. I'll perhaps make content around that. Just anything I had a passion for.
I was about to guess what type of games you play, and it seems like you already answered. It's similar to. Well, is airsoft and YouTube is primarily what you do, or it's a side gig? All that.
It's what I always do now. I was a trader in the city for 15 years. I traded interest rate futures.
Oh shit! Wow. Okay.
Ever since I left university, I've always worked for myself. I've never worked for anybody. And so I did that for a long time. And then I got into a bit of cryptocurrency for a little while. But YouTube and airsoft took over, and I just found myself spending ungodly amounts of time playing the game, fiddling with the game, and making content around the game. And thankfully, there was enough income from it to do it full time, and it's grown and grown from there. Really.
Doesn't look like you miss interest rate derivatives. Also, although you would have made so much money now.
But the way interest rates are moving in the last 12 months, I've been touching base with my old colleagues and going, "Oh my God, I missed this." It's a very interesting time in the world economy at the moment.
Yeah. So what would be next for you then? Like you continue playing airsoft, continue creating the content, and seems like you already have small or product line for snipers. Like, do you think you're gonna do something else?
I've never had a plan in my life ever. Like, I've just done what I love, and maybe I'm lucky. I just believe that if you do what you love and you enjoy, that's all there is. Like, I could wake up tomorrow and we could die. Like, I get hit by a car, or I could go and play airsoft in some crazy place and fall off a roof somewhere in Mozambique, or wherever I'm going to play airsoft next. I don't know. I could be going over to the Philippines and get bitten by a rattlesnake and die. Who knows what happens? Like, life is really short, and all there is, I believe, is to do what you love. And if you can build a framework of practicality to do that in, that's all there is to do in life. And I don't plan anything. I just do what I love.
You're pretty philosophical too, man. I have to say that. Or you went through some rough stuff in your life, or what happened?
Yeah, in 2010, all of my money was with a company for trading margin. You know about how trading works, don't you? Prop shops.
I'm a finance guy. You do. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So you know how prop shops work. So all my money was in a prop shop, and it was run by who I considered to be a best friend. And in 2008, he'd been punting on the falling stock market, and the bank. You know how prop shops work, where essentially it's all the money's pulled together. Mm-hmm. But we were told we had a segregated accounts. They weren't segregated. They're all pulled together. And it was with the Dutch bank. Oh shit! Santander. Is it Santander? Is it Dutch bank?
No, Santander is Spanish.
Honestly, I can't remember the name of the Dutch bank. But our money was with a prop shop. The prop shop had all of our money with the Dutch bank. And they were presenting us with statements and telling us we had segregated accounts, which we were led to believe we didn't. My best friend, Tim Carslake, was punting on the stock market that was falling. I had what I thought was £500,000 in my trading account. The Dutch bank said, enough's enough now. You can't keep presenting these traders with these falsified accounts. You've got to stop doing it. and Tim took the group Turtle Trading to another organization called Tower Trading in London, and Tower Trading then colluded with them to carry on presenting us with. So they moved the accounts to another company, and then April Fool's Day 2010, I was called into the office. We've got to close the account. There's no margin in there. I'm going, no margin. I've got no positions. I closed my positions off like last night, and they said no, there's no money in there. And so they presented what there was like 40 or 50 grand or something in there when I thought I had £500,000. And it was all closed down. Myself, a bunch of other traders. I thought it was an easy case. Like I thought we'd better get it all back. And I spent the next 2 years. I was a DJ at the time. I had a lot of rare soul records, and I thought, no, fuck these guys. It's an easy case. I was introduced to a lawyer who was the lawyer of a rival prop shop company. Funnily enough, the guy who ran the rival prop shop company who introduced me to the lawyer became a very good friend of mine. And he introduced me to Airsoft, funnily enough. And he's one of the two friends who play Airsoft. And I thought I'd get the money back. So I sold all the assets I had to try and get it to court. QC was like £5,000 an hour or something ridiculous, and they just tied me up in litigation. I never got it to court, and they got away with it. So I then tried to get back trading again, and I was doing okay, but never really getting any traction. I was making enough money to live, but never building the account up again. And of course, around that time, which was 2012, 2013, 2014, I was kind of scratching around, making a living, but not building the account up. It was the time of the HFT, high frequency trading, was coming in and taking over. And I was very much a market maker. I was like a buy sixes, sell sevens in UK interest rate futures kind of guy. And the HFT took over. And then I was kind of buggered basically at that point. And I was scratching around in 2014, 2015, very angry with the world. And I kind of got very philosophical around that time. Like, what is there in life? I applied to join the police force. I had a sense of justice in me that I wanted to, like, somehow, I don't know, I think I probably wanted to get revenge on all the bad people in the world. So I wanted to join the police force. And for some reason, they didn't accept me. They said there was some security reason they didn't accept me. And I never found out what that was. They never told me. So who knows what that was. And then I found Airsoft in 2015. The guy who introduced me to the lawyer. I started playing that, got really good at. It's earlier than that. It was 2012 I was playing Airsoft. 2011, 2012 I was playing Airsoft. But 2015 I started doing it seriously, and I realized I was really good at it. And around the same time, I was listening to a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who you may have seen on YouTube.
Yeah.
So around 2015, 2016, when Gary Vaynerchuk was just kind of on the up as well, he was really taking off at the time, and he was very inspirational. And he was like very much of the document, don't create mindset. Just start documenting everything you're doing, record it. You don't have to be creative. I started doing live streams in 2016 on Facebook, talking about ghillie suit crafting, and built my community then. And yeah, I kind of,
that was a wild ride, dude. Wow. Like it's back in 2000, let's say 2008, 7, 8, if somebody told you, yeah, you're going to be running a YouTube channel and you're going to be a sniper and Airsoft, you'll be like, what are you talking about?
No, exactly. But I'm super grateful for what happened in 2010. This is the funny thing. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life have gone through real shit. Like whether it's my grandfather, who was a prisoner with the Japanese, he was the most amazing human being. But he was only the most amazing human being because he was a prisoner with the Japanese, and he'd built the Thai Burma Railway and Hellfire Pass, and had been in many near-death scenarios, and had been in a situation that was inescapable, and he just had to get through it. And when he got through it, he was an amazing human being because of it. Would he wish anybody else go through what he went through? No, not at all. Would people who I was playing with Airsoft just gone? Patrick and Jason from they call themselves Savage Actual. They're military veterans and they've had several tours of Afghanistan, and they've probably seen things and done things that they wouldn't recommend anybody else do, but it's made them who they are. And what I went through in 2010, I think I wouldn't wish anyone to go through what I went through. The feeling of having not just money stolen, but your way of life, your feeling of self-determination, the people you consider to be friends who just turn their back on you. You wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it made me who I am. And I'm very grateful for it, but I wouldn't want to go through it again, which is a really weird thing that I've noticed in life.
Maybe
Can we put ourselves in situations that are going to be very, very difficult? I've got the utmost respect for people who say join the SAS, who know they're going to be put in the most horrific situations, pushing their mind and body to the very limit to get through it. Like, that takes a special kind of human being to put yourself in that situation, because they know it's going to make them a better soldier, a better person. They're going to do great things because of it. Now, would I want to put myself through that? I don't think I could do it, for starters, and I don't think I would probably be able to put myself through it, whether I could physically do it or not. The same way what I went through in 2010, I wouldn't choose to go through it, but I'm glad I did. Isn't that such a strange position that we find ourselves in as humans? We know what makes us better, but it's very difficult to put ourselves in those situations.
well, it's evolutionary probably, right? Evolutionary, you don't want to harm yourself for just for the sake of it. Maybe that's
Exactly. Exactly. But we know it's good for us. We know it makes us better people.
or we just find silver lining in what already happened, being stoic about stuff, right? I don't know. I don't know.
Possibly.
I don't know that it's just the
I
conversation
don't know the answer either. I
get
don't know.
deeper
It's
than I
quite. It's an
expected.
interest. It's an interesting conversation, though, isn't it?
You left me with some thoughts for July 4th holidays. I'll just say that.